Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast from still the aforementioned Chase Thomas coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ. Joining me from FanRun Radio, one of my favorite radio voices. He couldn't do anything else with the voice that Russell Smith has. Russell, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Couldn't do anything else with the voice. Couldn't do anything else with the skill set, quite frankly. So I'm just, I couldn't have a real job. So I'm doing all right, man. How are you?
Pretty good. Yeah, it's just kind of like we're both like we're grizzled vets,
Yes.
sports media vets, where it's like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Like
No.
This is kind of the path we're on, and then we're just gonna see this through and see what happens.
Yes. Good thing the radio business is humming along. So it's good to get on the internet. That seems to be where everything's headed. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and thank you for being here. Make sure you are listening to Russell in the afternoon, Monday through Friday at FanRun Radio, and also on their YouTube channel that they're live streaming all day long over there on FanRun Radio as well. Russell, the first thing I want to ask you about, and this you're not going to believe this, we're going to talk about Tennessee basketball here out of the gate, but I'm curious based on when you think back to what you thought about this team before the year got started, like post transfer portal, post everybody, like you got a good idea, like even Estrella being out for the year, knowing that he wasn't going to be available. When you think back to what you thought about what this team's ceiling was, did you think they were a team that was going to make it to the Sweet 16 and maybe even get back to where this previous year's team got to in the Elite Eight?
Man, it's a good question. Like it's been a weird season, right? I mean, they go on these win streaks and you think, man, this is a great team. Rick Barnes is a great coach. What a program we've got. And then every loss, and there's only been 6 of them. Every loss is like some sort of referendum on the program. It's like, well, man, we're just not that good. This isn't the team. And I've ridden that roller coaster emotionally as well. I remember coming out of that Ole Miss loss thinking, man, like it's they've had a good season, but it's largely been done with smoke and mirrors. And this isn't the Final Four team. They don't have a player like Connect that can go get them a bucket when they absolutely have to have it. But they are where they are. And, this is a great opportunity for Tennessee to take it another step against Kentucky. And I just try, the thing I keep preaching to our listeners is to enjoy the ride. I'm old school Tennessee basketball fan from way back in the day. Started following the program in the mid to late 80s. And, there was a long stretch where just getting to the tournament was a pipe dream, let alone having any sort of sustained success in it. So to go to the Sweet 16 3 years in a row is a pretty good accomplishment in my book. And these weeks are fun. These are fun weeks to do radio. Everybody's excitement. Everybody's on edge, particularly this year with Kentucky and then Purdue on the other side. It's like people are just overlooking the fact that Houston is the 1 seed, and people are just terrified of potentially playing Purdue again. So just a lot of emotions, a lot of intensity and all that stuff. But it's a fun week right now. So that's my thing, is just enjoy it, and we'll freak out over Friday when it gets here.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be an all-time great atmosphere on Friday. Like, it's just, sports are the best with stakes. Like, stakes are why we get into all of this. So, yes, will it be absolutely devastating if Tennessee loses to Kentucky on Friday? Yeah, there's no way around it. Like, it will be devastating. Also, if you win and you avoid that sweep and you get back to the Elite Eight and you might get Purdue or Houston, whoever it is, like, that's great. Like, you're going to be euphoric. So there's just no way around it where you're going to be like, what an all-time great program win. So I look at that and I'm like, that's why you watch sports, is for those kind of euphoric moments where I think in baseball, like, you just kind of kept chopping at the bit, you like that 4-year run where you're like, okay, well, they're really good. They're gobbling up the regular season wins, and it's easy to take it for granted, where it's like, okay, well, talk to me when we get to Omaha or we advance and whatever. It's like, well, when you get there enough times and you recruit and you develop the way that Vitello does, like, you're eventually going to break through. And they broke through last year. And like, that's just kind of the deal. It's like, I think Barnes is kind of 3 straight Sweet 16s. I think you could, the best glass half full way to look at this is like, that's the odds are good that he's going to break through if he keeps making these Sweet 16s. Like, if he keeps doing this at this clip and with how old this roster is and how well they're playing, especially the 3 guards down the stretch here, that the odds are pretty good. There's a reason Tennessee's favored in this game on Friday.
You would think so. I mean, we've been preaching that for 20 years is, hey, just keep knocking on the door. Eventually it will open. I remember saying that exact same thing during the Bruce Pearl era. It's like, well,
Mm.
yeah, you're getting to the tournament 6 years in a row. Hey, just keep going. Just keep going. You improve your odds and eventually you'll get in there. So if that's true, then the breakthrough should be coming any moment now. This would be a great year to do it as well with a team that I'm not going to say there are no stars. I think there are a couple of guys that will have professional careers and maybe even a guy or two could break through to the NBA. But it is much more of a collective unit, gritty guys. And it's just epitomized by the leaders of this team, Zeigler and Meshack. And you throw Gainey in there as well. These are unheralded guys. The story about Meshack being passed over by the hometown schools, UCLA, that we heard over the weekend. Obviously, Jordan Gainey, ending up at USC Upstate. And then everybody knows the Zeigler story. I mean, what a poetic ending it would be if that's the group that finally gets Tennessee through to a Final Four. So it's an easy group to root for. Great stories, a great program. Rick Barnes' story about him being able to keep his integrity in a sport like college basketball that we all remember the Sean Miller, Will Wade stuff, all the shady sneaker company recruiting scandals from back in the day. And through it all, Rick Barnes has kind of been a guy that's been able to do it the right way. And how could you not pull for a guy like that? So that's something that we talk about. Like I want it for Rick Barnes just as much as I want it for the players or the fans or the school or anything. I mean, he really deserves it.
There's a path wrestle where, and like Tennessee fans, like if you think the emotional roller coaster is ending with a win over Kentucky on Friday, no, like it's just beginning, and it's like there's a scenario, and I think it's actually kind of realistic if Tennessee keeps winning, which is Tennessee could get Kentucky, Purdue, Alabama, and Auburn in their Final Four to win a national title. Like that could be the path. Like if you look at just where teams are, like it wouldn't surprise me if Alabama made it out of their region. They were in the Final Four last year. That's who would be waiting for you. If you get over the Purdue hump and you're like, all right, got over the Kentucky hump, the Purdue hump. All right, who we got here? Oh, another just big time, like a team that has played us extremely well and been gone down to the buzzer, obviously with Jemai's game winner. And then, okay, we get through that one. Oh, we got Auburn again for the third time this year, and we've split that one. I mean, there's just no way around it. Like this could be unbelievable in terms of just Tennessee hoops fans' nerves and vibes for this tournament because the matchups aren't going away.
We were joking about that on the show yesterday. If it gets to the point where Tennessee's playing Auburn and Bruce Pearl for a national championship, I don't know that this fan base will have anything left emotionally to have gotten through Kentucky this week and potentially Purdue or Houston, Alabama or Duke. Just think of how gut-wrenching those games are going to be. I call them root canal games. Like the Auburn and Bruce Pearl for a national championship would be the root canal game of all root canal games. I don't know that there's enough anesthetic in the world for Vol Nation if it comes to that. So I hope it does. I mean, that would be an amazing run for the program and everything. But just the lead up to that game and everything, apocalyptic is the word that comes to mind for Tennessee fans. It would be something else.
What do you think has been the best story for this year's UT men's team?
That's a good question too. The easy answer, of course, is Zeigler. I'll put that aside just because it's been told so many times. I think the Meshack stuff. I mean, there was, inside the hardest of hardcore Tennessee basketball circles, there was a debate in the middle of the season. It's like, should Meshack be starting? Oh no, they need to start Gainey. The analytics heads are explaining this to us, and there's an argument to be made there. I think that Gainey is basically a starter for this team. That might be where I go is Jordan Gainey. Everybody's like, what's the X factor? Is it Darlin Stone Dubar? Is it Meshack making a couple of buckets? Can Boswell give anything off the bench? And Jordan Gainey's just showed up the entire year. And the improvement that he has made from last year when he was a liability at times, just sort of feeling his way out to being again at that core group of I don't think you can mention Ziegler and Meshack without mentioning Jordan Gainey. I mean, we have to have him functioning at a high level for Tennessee to advance throughout this tournament. If he has an off game, chances are Tennessee's going home. And so far, he's delivered. He's shown a little bit of the clutch gene. We all remember the drive to win it against Illinois. He's had many other big games for Tennessee. And after a slow start in that UCLA game, he came through in a big way. He does so many things for Tennessee in addition to shooting the ball from the outside. His mid-range game has developed. He can really attack the basket. He can assist, and he's a high-level defender. So, I think that you asked me the question. I hate to dodge it. Maybe that remains to be written. Who can get even hotter at this point and carry Tennessee. But I think there are a lot of great stories on this team. But I would look at the senior leadership there: Ziegler, Meshack, and Jordan Gainey.
And I think you're 100% right about the Gainey aspect of. I don't think anyone's made a bigger year 1 to year 2. Like, Cade's gotten a lot better. He's been thrust in the lineup without JP Estrella. Cade was great against UCLA on Saturday, but it's still different in terms of his role night to night versus Gainey. Like, Gainey has done. I mean, even that game where Meshack hits the game winner against Alabama, Gainey was unbelievable in that game. Like, Gainey will not. He does a lot of the stuff because he hasn't shot the ball better really than last year, like from deep. Like, that hasn't really picked up. It's one of the weirder things at Tennessee is that Jordan Gainey, who we know is a good shooter, just for whatever reason, the threes just haven't fallen at a consistent clip at Tennessee. It's just really weird that hasn't happened for him. But he does other stuff now. Like, he gets a couple steals. He rebounds well. He drives and draws fouls. He drives, like, he does a lot. He's evolved his game so much where it's not just like if the threes aren't falling early for him that he's just like he goes away. That's not how it goes. Like, Gainey is still extremely active and affects the game in so many different ways that there's a reason. Like you said, he's kind of he's not a starter. He's not a starter, but he is a finisher. And I think he will always be in the closing five for Barnes throughout this tournament because he's earned it and he's just made that leap. And I tend to agree that he's the best story this year.
There's something to be said for a team that they don't necessarily have a go-to guy. Like last year, obviously, it's Dalton Connect is the guy that you've got to be aware of if you're playing against Tennessee. This year, if you're Kentucky right now and you're Mark Pope and you're looking at film and everything, like who do you focus on? Who do you stop? I mean, you gotta account for everybody, and I think there's a danger in that. And I'll even go back to if we want to use a football analogy, 1998. Peyton Manning leaves the University of Tennessee, and everybody thinks, oh, the program's going to take a big step back. And they sort of collectively raised the level of play on both sides of the ball. There were stars for sure, but there wasn't a Peyton Manning on the 1998 team. What a great story it would be if the team that loses the first round NBA pick and we'll see what happens. We haven't mentioned Chaz Lanier, our top scorer yet, but we'll see what happens with him. But it would be kind of a similar type story where I always screw up this saying, but the sum of the parts is greater than the whole, or the whole's, whatever that thing is.
I think you got it right.
That would kind of apply this year because it's a very balanced team, basically a 7-man rotation right now. You can include Dubar in that to get to 8, but everybody has to be accounted for. It seems like everybody really knows their role well on this team right now, and I attribute that to Coach Barnes, and he's coached them up, and he certainly has his fair share of second guessers from fans and media, but here he is in the Sweet 16 for the 3rd year in a row.
We'll put a bow on the basketball part of it there, Russell. Before I let you go, I wanted to pick your brain on spring football. Like we got a lot ways to go here, Russell. But this town and Vol fans are still just chomping at the bit for Tennessee football and spring practice back this week after the guys being away for spring break last week. My question to you, when you think about all the different things that Tennessee is looking to build off of from their first CFP season a year ago, and with how Tennessee was able to win 10 games and make the CFP with all the different issues with the offense and the adjustments they had to make in season, like going 12 personnel from the Oklahoma game on because you just couldn't trust your tackles, and with the unreliability of the receivers, with question marks at quarterback at times until the second half of the Alabama game on. When you factor all that in, the turnover on the offensive line, turnover in the receiver room, no Dylan Sampson, Nico Iamaleava in year 3, a top 10 scoring defense. When you factor all of that in, like, what to you do you think is the most important thing that Tennessee football addresses this spring so that they can build off and be better than the team we saw in 2024?
Wow, that's a hard one to narrow it down to just one. I will say this, like, I don't think Nico played poorly at all last year. I mean, how could you think he played poorly? We made the college football playoff with a redshirt freshman quarterback, but you know, 5-star guy, he's got all the tools and all that stuff. I think there's room for growth there. There's room for development, and you know, some of that is the intangible stuff. And we've heard about him taking on a more active leadership role this spring, being more vocal on it. That stuff's important for a quarterback. So I think just his continued development, and that is not to downplay. You know, I think they'll be okay at running back. I think they've got some good options there. I know the Ellerby stuff is a hot topic of conversation. All that guy does is put together offensive lines that produce, and particularly in the run game, Tennessee led the conference in rushing last year. Receivers are big, but man, it's a quarterback centric game. It's a quarterback centric league. It's a quarterback centric team with Josh Heupel. They've got to get that elite production. They've got to find a way to you know, he doesn't have to be Hendon Hooker, but Nico Iamaleava, there's another level for him to reach out there. And it felt like at times last season that they were protecting him. And, you know, I'm no X's and O's expert, but it felt like that maybe, you know, the lack of tempo at times was just to give him time to process what was going on and protect him and limit his exposure to some different things from SEC defenses. Can he grasp this system? Can they expand on the system, add more wrinkles and stuff to confuse opposing defenses? I think a lot of it is on Nico. Is that unfair? Maybe, but again, you know, it's quarterback. You're a quarterback in the SEC. All eyes are on you. The expectations are going to be ratcheted up. And when you have the story that he has, or his recruitment, the NIL deal, all that stuff, the expectations are going to be higher. And again, it might not be fair, but life's not fair, particularly in the cutthroat world of SEC college football. So, long-winded way of saying I think a lot of it is on Nico, not all of it. But you asked what was the biggest part, and that's what I would say is quarterback.
I don't think there's any way around it. With Dylan Sampson gone, with so much youth, I mean, 4 new starters on the offensive line, new starter at running back, 2 new starters at receiver, kind of 3 depending on how you look at Brazel, because I mean, he didn't start a lot from the second half of the season on. Like, there's just so much change. Even like you bring in Seth Luttrell, you bring in Landry Jones, there's even a little bit of offensive staff changes. I mean, there is so much there's so much of an overhaul from a year ago, and Nico is the constant. Like, Nico is the one who's got to get William Satterwhite settled in if that's the guy who wins the center job. Nico's the one who's got to get Deshaun Bishop and Peyton Lewis, these guys settled in. Like, okay, you can do this. You can replace one of the best Tennessee running backs of the 21st century. He's got to get Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley comfortable with expanded roles that we haven't seen. I mean, Braylon Staley got a odd taste because he played 50 snaps in the Ohio State game after redshirting this year. It's like, all right, well, we got a bunch of injuries. Like, here you go, Braylon. Go up against the best team in college football here for 50 snaps. And there's a lot to like. These are a lot of blue chip options that Tennessee is replacing these guys who have moved on. But it's just, there's so much you just don't know. Like, I struggle, like the thing I struggle with most with this Tennessee team in 2025, Russell, and I don't know if you share this opinion, but I think with the schedule, the reason that they are tied with Alabama, Texas, and Georgia with 9.5 wins expected here this year is partly because Heupel has raised the floor so high here, where he's lost one home game in 3 years. He just doesn't lose games he's not supposed to, outside of some like weird road games like at Arkansas a year ago. But he's just created such a floor that it's like it's hard when you look at the schedule to squint. You're like, all right, 9-3 is like worst case scenario when you look at this schedule. So it's like the defense I think is gonna be really good. I think this is the best linebacker room they've ever had. I think they're going to be just loaded in that side of the ball again. I think Tim Banks has gotten better every single year. You talk about Ellerby and just how fans. I've always said like Tim Banks is just really really good. If he's not top 10 defensive coordinators in the sport, he's in the top 15. And I think it's really good to have him back for another year. But I think the floor of this season is so high because I like so much around Nico that Nico could be okay. He could be like a B+, A- quarterback and not be the 5-star that you hoped. And Tennessee's still back in the playoff. Like Tennessee could still just get right back in there because the schedule is really nice, because the defense is going to be really good again, because they're always going to be able to run the football. They've averaged 5 yards a carry for 4 years under Heupel. Like they're going to be able to run the ball. They're going to play good defense. And he just has to make a couple plays. Mike Matthews can make, like if he breaks out, like you just need one of those guys. If William Satterwhite settles in and you don't really miss a beat, Cooper Mays is like Tennessee fans could be frustrated all next season and still make the playoff in back-to-back seasons because of how the circumstances are for Tennessee. Is that fair?
Well, you're getting me fired up about it. Yeah, man. I talk about the receivers.
I just watched the Juice before we jumped on here. Like Mike Keith before we get started here. No, I'm just kidding. Like I watched the yesterday. I love the Juice. I love the practice videos. Russell, one of the dorkiest things about me is I love those 5-minute B-rolls with just the everybody getting into it and working out. And I'm just like, all right, I'm ready. I'm ready to run through a brick wall. Let's throw explosions in the sky on here. Pop on a Matt Saracen quote. Let's go. I'm ready. Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose, Russell.
There you go. Let's go. I love the FNL references there. Just picking up on the receivers a little bit. I think there is something to be said for the whole second year in the system thing. Obviously, it benefited Jalen Hyatt a couple of years ago. And with Brazel, he had a couple of nicks and bumps, injuries that held him back at times last year. And it just felt like he was kind of finding his way throughout the season. And the same thing with Mike Matthews. It was a lot of expectations. And I feel like he had a hamstring or something in fall camp that sort of limited his development. Well, like that, I mean, that's another thing is like keeping these guys healthy, allowing them to get through spring practice. It feels like, knock on wood, that they haven't had any major injury situations, just getting those reps with Nico, getting that timing down, getting the basics of Heupel's offensive system committed to memory so that it becomes second nature out there. I do think that the talent is out there for Tennessee at wide receiver. Now, the question is like, what about the guys behind them? Hopefully you don't need them too much, but you might, can one of these freshmen, a Travis Smith or a Darius Jackson, somebody like that come in? What are we going to do in the portal after spring practice? Is there a late ad you could get out there that could come in and make an impact? Still a lot of question marks in there, but for sure, as you pointed out, man, there's a lot of pieces to play with, a lot of talent on this field, and it's just about it all coming together in the right way. Are these guys going to put in the work in the offseason? Or is Hurd going to get himself in the sort of elite physical condition that an offensive lineman needs to be in order to play fast? What happens with the David Sanders project? Is he ready to go day one? Who is going to replace Cooper Mays? Maybe the biggest question on this offense. There are certainly no shortage of potential answers, but it's about getting from potential to actual answers in time for that season opener against Syracuse, which, by the way, probably not going to be a cakewalk either, man. You better be ready to play against the Orange. I was glad to see their quarterback go ahead and go on to the NFL. That could have been a high-scoring game. Might still be. I don't know. But it'll be here before you know it. What a time to be a Tennessee fan.
I'm excited. I'll be back in the building for that one, going to Atlanta for that one. I'm an anti-neutral site person, generally speaking, but getting getting to go back to Atlanta and seeing Tennessee and Mercedes-Benz will be fun. And I think they're going to be fine. Like, it's a 14.5-point line, I think, already. No Kyle McCord. I'm not really worried about that game. I'm not. I think a lot of people are going to talk themselves. It's kind of like NC State last year.
Oh, sure.
Where people are going to talk themselves into, like, I don't know. Like, I'm just Tony Romo over here. I don't know, Jim. Like, it's just that's what we're going to be doing for that game. And I'm like, I think they're going to be fine. I think Tennessee's got real problems. They lose Syracuse in the opener. Like, it's going to be a bad year, folks. Like, let's just go ahead and put that one out there. Like, if Tennessee loses Syracuse, season's not going to go well, I don't think.
Oh, that would be an all-time bad stumble out of the gates.
You got Georgia in week 3. Like,
now you've got me worried. Oh no, can't lose to Syracuse. That would be awful.
Oh, season ender. Like, let me just go ahead and tell you, Russell. Season ender. Like,
season if Tennessee loses to Syracuse.
Like, it's just there's no way around it. You get Georgia in week 3, the vibes will be completely destroyed. Like, you're 1-2 after. No. Because then you have to be perfect from then on out to make the CFP. Like, it's just the vibes are just terrible. Like, you can't.
All right,
lose Syracuse.
so we've already established Syracuse a must-win game.
Oh, yeah.
Hashtag no excuses.
I mean, I just goodness gracious. Like, I can't. Like, in year 5, can't do it. Can't lose to Syracuse and Mercedes-Benz when you're as a 14.5-point favorite. Can't do it. Russell Smith, what can the good folks check out from you and the team over at FanRun Radio this week?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way, fanrunradio.com. We've got a free app. I'm on every day from 3 to 6 in the afternoon, just chopping it up with my buddies and taking some phone calls, fun guests, and a lot of basketball talk this time of year, but also getting into baseball, man. We have just fallen in love with this baseball program and Tony Vitello. He's been a good friend of the show for a long time and helps us out a lot. So it's just a great time, man. I love this week being in the Sweet 16. I love this time of year. Spring football going on. Football is a 365-day a year topic on our program. So check it out. The Drive 3 to 6 on FanRun Radio. We've been doing it for 15 years now. So come on in and have a good time with us.
I love it. Go tune in if you're not already, and all the great work that Russell's doing 3 to 6 Monday through Friday on FanRun Radio. Russell, thank you so much for making the time today. I greatly appreciate it, and we'll have to check back in again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Let's do it again.
All right, we're back here on the Chase Thomas podcast where Aaron Gershon of the Catspaws 247, Kentucky's 247 site, covering the Kentucky Wildcats, where, let me check my notes here. Kentucky and Tennessee play an important Sweet 16 basketball game on Friday. Aaron, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. Appreciate you having me. Yeah, it's crazy. First, they've met, I don't know what the number is, how many times they've met in program history. It's got to be north of 200 around there. I don't have it in front of me, but first NCAA tournament matchup between the two rivals. Pretty crazy that it's finally happening, and I know for one fan base it'll be a tough pill to swallow, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to it.
And it will be a friendly encounter among fans. Like, everyone will have a reasonable response either way.
Yes. Yeah. Robert McVall will be very, very calm no matter what.
I mean, both sides, man. There's just no way around it. Like, this is something we were talking about before we got started about, like, awesome. Who's more pressure. But it's just like the stakes are what make sports fun. And the stakes are extremely high. Like, it's good that Tennessee has all this pressure on him. It makes the game fun. Like, this is what you're playing for. Like, this is like an opportunity to beat your rival, to go to the Elite Eight. You're favored. You've lost to him twice. Like, yeah, it could be the worst loss in school history based on the circumstances, but it also could be the best win. Like, that's what you have to do, glass half full, where you're like, if you beat Kentucky to go to the Elite Eight, that's an all-time great, like, situation for Tennessee basketball. So I understand the nervousness for Vol fans about this game on Friday, but I'm also like, that's just great sports. Like, a lot of programs would kill to have these kind of stakes and this kind of pressure right now.
Yeah, if you're going to make history, it's not going to be easy, right? I mean, look, Kentucky's doing something historic right now where they're the first team in college basketball history to have 0 returning production to make a Sweet 16. That ain't easy to do. So if Tennessee is going to finally, break through and get to a Final Four, you got to beat the rival that's, had your number this year and, just historically, and then, might have to play either Houston, who's really, really good, or Purdue, which will basically be a Purdue home game. So it's going to be, and that's not a slight at Tennessee fans, it's just the game is in an hour or whatever it is from West Lafayette. So it'll probably be the same if it's Kentucky Purdue. So it's just it's hard. It's supposed to be hard for a reason. And yeah, look, if Tennessee can get it done, it'll be that much more sweeter to get it done against Kentucky, and then a very formidable opponent in the Elite Eight.
There's a path where Tennessee has to play to win a national title. They would have to go through Kentucky, Purdue, Alabama, and Auburn. Like there's a path where that's what's on ahead of them. It's crazy town.
Yeah. It is, and yeah, it could be also could be Florida. There could be Houston. It's a tough path for whoever wins this game on Friday.
And the reason I threw Auburn over Florida is just Bruce Pearl aspect to it. Like I just don't know how you recover. Like if you don't get like Bruce Pearl beating Tennessee in the national championship game, I don't know. Like there's just
there's also the scenario on the Kentucky side. It's probably a longer shot, but. You could play John Calipari in a national championship game.
Goodness gracious. Both are possible, which is wild to say here in late March.
It's great that we have these scenarios. And, Kentucky, BYU could play each other. I forget if it would be Final Four or championship game, how exactly the bracket shakes on that. But, yeah, that's what makes it March. And that's the people who are crying that this tournament is boring and this tournament stinks this year because there's no Cinderella to go get their butts whooped this weekend is a little beyond me, but whatever.
I think it's just different. You know what I mean? Like I think what people want is to get to this point. Like I think people want a lot of the Blue Bloods. They want the brands in the Sweet 16 on, like the better big time games where it feels like you can have as many Sweet 16 teams who feel like they can win a national title in that group. But you do want in the round 1 and 2 to have some upsets. Like you want some Cinderella early, and then you want to get to this point where you're having Tennessee, Kentucky playing meaningful basketball in the final. You know what I mean? Like I think that's more of what they're annoyed about is like we just didn't get the first part. Like we're okay with where we're at now. Like I think most people, if you poll college basketball fans or even fans of these teams, like we're all expecting bangers here from a game on the rest of the way, right? Like
there's not one matchup you look at this weekend and you're like, ugh, that's a stinky game. Like every single game has some sort of story. BYU Alabama, the over under set at like 175. Like there's just going to be, you have Kentucky, Tennessee, you have Janai Broom going up against 2 7-footers from Michigan. Florida and Maryland, like there are some doozies, so it's going to be fun.
What is your gut right now, Aaron? I know you probably aren't going to make your official prediction until later on, but what is your gut? Do you think they sweep Tennessee? Kentucky goes 3-0, or do you lean right now that the Vegas has it right and that Tennessee has a good shot to beat Kentucky this time around?
Look, I'll preface it by saying I'm pretty pessimistic typically. So to give you an example of my 2 coworkers I drove up with to Pittsburgh last year, I told them that I felt really bad and that Oakland was going to take Kentucky out, and it happened. And this year my bracket, so they've already exceeded my expectations. With that said, when really hard to beat a team 3 times, and that is 100% true. But I'd rather be the team that has won twice than be the team that has lost twice. And I think Kentucky, what's been if you're Kentucky, what you feel good about is not that you just won the game. Those, at the end of the day, now those are history. How you did it. You did it without Lamont Butler the first time, and then the second time without Jackson Robinson, and then you fell behind when Lamont Butler got re-injured and still were able to pull it out against an elite defense with 2 world-class defensive guards, and you didn't have a point guard. You had a center playing point guard, and you were still able to pull that game out and win. And one thing, I've obviously watched a lot of Tennessee and having a ton of respect for them. Defensively, I haven't, outside of the Florida game in Gainesville, I haven't seen teams get open looks against Tennessee like Kentucky has. For whatever reason, what Kentucky's been able to do schematically has gotten them open looks. And when Kentucky gets open looks, it's not, I've seen a lot of tendency, oh, they went crazy, they shot 50%. No, this Kentucky team, when they're open, they make shots. It doesn't matter. They could be playing against Tennessee, they could be playing against Houston on Sunday. Like, if you're going to give them an opening, they're going to make the shots. That's what this team is really, really good at. That's what Mark Pope assembled here. So that's
why do you?
why I.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go for it.
So you mentioned the open shots. Like Kentucky has shot 50% from three against Tennessee both times this year. Like, what have you seen in those games that Tennessee defensively has not been able to account for, and why Kentucky has been able to get as many good looks from three both times against Tennessee that most schools just can't do against this defense?
Yeah. Kentucky's just, there's more ball movement and more motion and zoom actions than most teams see. Like, there's not really a guy sitting in the corner just waiting for a look. There's not really guys who are stagnant. Like, they play at they play very quick. They're a tempo offense. They love to push the pace. They're not very methodical, and like Tennessee, and their offensive efficiency is very high this year, but they're more methodical, break you down type of offense, where Kentucky is run and gun. And both games, Tennessee early really struggled with Kentucky's tempo. They got a better feel for the game as it went on, but really Kentucky's ability to just keep cutting relentlessly led to some miscommunications on the defensive end from Tennessee and left guys open. And neither game really did Rick Barnes and that staff have full answers for it. And there were definitely some, like Kobe Bryant hit some really good. There were some good defensive plays, better offense, and that's going to happen. But Kobe Bryant is a really good shooter who does that against everybody. So it was definitely, Kentucky definitely was able to do some things. I think their offensive scheme, Rick Barnes having not faced, I mean, obviously he's faced out offenses, but just maybe having never maybe wasn't ready for it at the time. I'm sure they're going to have a much better game plan here on Friday. But, Kentucky was able to get really good looks. And again, they did it in Lexington, they did it without Jackson Robinson, and they did it without Lamont Butler in Knoxville. And then they did it without Lamont Butler for the last 9 minutes of the game in Lexington. And now Lamont Butler is back. And not only is he back, he looked healthy against Illinois, and his shot was starting to fall. So there's a lot to like about what Kentucky's doing right now. Now, do I necessarily think that's going to result in a win? Not necessarily, but I just think that I do think, I don't know how much the two games just in the win and loss column means something, but it's more so how Kentucky was able to have success is something to watch. It's very interesting how they were able to kind of make things happen against that Tennessee defense that other teams weren't able to do, and then they were able to do both, and they were able to do it in both circumstances shorthanded. And then, not only was Lamont Butler out of Tennessee, but Andrew Carr only played about 90 seconds because he had a bad back, and he's back, and he's been playing fantastic basketball for about a month on both ends of the court. So, it is, I will be interested to see if that carries any weight. The fact that Kentucky was already having their way with Tennessee shorthanded, and now it's still not at full strength because Jackson Robinson and Kirk Harris are out for the season, but closer to full strength than they were in those.
It's interesting too, the Lamont part of it, because I mean, obviously talking about we're going to beat Tennessee, and he gave Zeigler more problems than most point guards are able to give Zeigler. Zeigler is, generally speaking, the better point guard in just about every matchup that Tennessee plays, and that matchup in particular, like, he got banged up in the Tennessee-Kentucky game the second time around. He wasn't available the first time, but he was giving Zeigler problems in that second game before he went down. What is it about Lamont, who people forget, like, he has a bunch of NCAA tournament experience back at San Diego State, and I just don't think Tennessee fans might, like, you just forget, like, you're like, oh no, this dude's not just like a new Kentucky, just your run-of-the-mill transfer. Like, no, this was a guy who's played a lot of meaningful college basketball and an older player. And I wonder, from your vantage point, why do you think Lamont Butler has been able to play Zeigler really well, better than most people have been able to?
Yeah, well, this was the guy that Mark Pope picked to build his team around. This was
Mm.
the guy, and I think it surprised some people at first, just because you think of Mark Pope, you got to have a elite 3-point shooting point guard. Well, Lamont Butler, he's having his best 3-point shooting year, but he's not necessarily that. But you go look at what he did at San Diego State, and take away the NCAA tournament success. He was a defensive team guy 3 years in a row, and he won the Defensive Player of the Year in that conference last year. And it's not the SEC, but that conference sent 16 to the tournament last year, so it was a really good Mountain West. And you mentioned the NCAA tournament experience. This is the 15th NCAA tournament game. And his last 2 runs at San Diego State, they got to the national championship game, and then they got to the Sweet 16. And both of those losses were to UConn, who were the national champions. So in the last 2 years, the only team that's beaten Lamont Butler in the NCAA tournament is UConn. And what he does, he's just an elite defender. He just has a knack for the ball. He comes up with steals where it looks like he shouldn't even be chasing down the ball. It's like, what are you doing? Oh, he has the ball. And I remember, I think it was the very first possession of the Tennessee-Kentucky game at Rupp. He stole the ball from Zeigler and went to the other end for a breakaway layup, and it kind of set the tone for the night. And that's just what he does. And he had a huge impact against Illinois. They're all conference guard there. The kid from Lithuania, I can't pronounce his last name, but he just had him rattled all game long. And he came up with a huge steal after Kentucky had missed a basket. He gets it right underneath Kentucky's basket, dishes to Grant Garrison for a huge 3-point play that kind of was one of the daggers down the stretch there. So he just has a knack for the ball. And, with Zeigler, obviously Ziegler's an elite defender in his own right, and he makes a lot of guys look bad with his ability to get by you with his speed, and then he's able to drive in the lane and kick, and that usually leads to an open three from somewhere. And Lamont Butler is just a guy that's hard to get by. He's not a guy. He's a veteran. He's a fifth year guy who's played in, again, this will be his 14th NCAA tournament game. Like, he's not going to get faked out the way other point guards are. He very, very, very rarely gets blown by. And I feel like Ziegler is one of the best point guards I've watched in college basketball the last couple of years. That, whether it be his eyes, being locked in on someone else, then passing it no look, or whether it's just being able to pump fake, just methodically get by his defender. That's just not going to happen against Lamont Butler. It might once or twice, but it ain't going to happen much. He's just an elite defensive point guard. And, he's become a very good offense player this year at San Diego State. They ran a much different offense, and their focus was very much on the defensive end, but it's just not going to happen again. That's not to say Zeigler can't have success. I mean, Zeigler, I still think, I know he scored a lot when Lamont came in Lexington, but I think he still finished 7 for 11 or something from the field. So it's not like he had a bad game in Lexington. I know he got a little banged up in the game in Knoxville and didn't shoot well at all in that game, but it's not to say Zeigler can't have success in this game. But I think Butler's probably the toughest matchup he's going to face the rest of the way, just based on defensive point guards. I'm not sure there are many better defensive point guards in the whole country, and that's not just coming from me. Just go look at what he did at San Diego State the last 3 years. This is his 4th year of being an elite defender. It's nothing new.
Yeah, I think it's the matchup to watch. Like, I think Tennessee's guards, they're living and dying with their guards anyway, with Gainey, Zeigler, and Chaz. And Chaz has been great down the stretch here for Tennessee.
Absolutely.
But Tennessee, I just don't think there's a way, like, even if Kentucky doesn't shoot 50% from three this time, like, they don't go 12 for 24, and maybe Brian Schemper from the pod of Rocket Up Insider made it like how big of a difference it could be if they just go 9 for 24 instead of, like, those 6 points could be huge if Tennessee can just close out, do a couple things differently for the Vols in this game. Like, that could be the difference in the game. Just limit. It doesn't mean you have to completely shut down Kentucky from deep, because that is such a big part of their offense, and they have enough shooters that it's not realistic to expect a really bad 3-point night all night long. But if you just contest a couple a little bit differently, you do a couple things that could pay huge dividends. Yeah. But I just look at it, the guards just have to win. Like, Chaz has to shoot the ball extremely well for Tennessee to have a shot. I think he has to be aggressive again. And I think Zakai has to handle Lamont Butler better. Like, I think that's what you live and die with. It's like Zakai has to battle and find a way to score and be aggressive and get Chaz the ball and not let Lamont just hound him and limit what Tennessee's able to do in the half court. because I just don't know if they can win that way. I don't know if Tennessee has enough offensive firepower to survive if Zakai is struggling, getting hounded by Lamont for 36 minutes, and the offense is just stuck in the mud against Kentucky. And I think it's Zakai. And it's definitely possible. Like, Zakai can absolutely rise to the occasion and find different ways and different wrinkles to win this battle. But I think the Butler versus Zakai battle is the battle of the game for me.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's what's going to come down to. And look, I mean, Lamont is still far from 100% healthy. I said he looked a lot healthier. It doesn't mean I don't know exactly what he has, but he is a very, very serious. Most guys would not be playing, but Lamont Butler is he's a warrior, man. That guy is a winner, and he wants to be out there so, so bad. I mean, he basically has had his arms taped together for months, and he did wear a little bit of a different brace against Illinois, and that clearly, helped him on the offensive end. He finishes with 14 and 5 on that end of the floor. So, but defensively, they were calling him the one-armed bandit. Because he's still making such an impact on that side of the floor. It's really impressive what he's able to do, and I think that is going to be the matchup of the game. Because Chaz Lanier's got, for Tennessee, Kentucky did a great job on him both times, and I don't expect him to go 0 for 7 again. That dude is too good for 7. I think he went 3 for 8 in Knoxville. So I mean, Kentucky could live with 3 for 8. The big guy.
He's just a different player than what
that Kentucky
saw last time. He's playing at a completely different level right now.
Yeah, he's been fantastic down the stretch, and so is Jordan Gainey. He's been a whole different player since the last time Kentucky's played them. So those are two guys I'm watching, and then the one guy who has struggled in this tournament so far, but has really killed Kentucky is Igor Milicic. And what's interesting with his matchup is that is one thing Kentucky struggled with all year, even against Illinois, is the forwards that can shoot the three. Kentucky has had a hard time containing. We saw it with Big Z's brother, Tomislav Isevic. I forget how many threes he hit. It hit at least 4. Zavonimir, the former Wildcat, hit 4 when they came to Lexington, and Arkansas won that game. Asa Newell of Georgia had a really good game shooting against Kentucky. Like, forwards that shoot the three well have been tough for Kentucky to handle all year. And I think the game in Lexington where Tennessee went 3 for 8 from 3, I think Igor hit all the threes for Tennessee, and then Barnes mysteriously took him off the floor, and Kentucky was like, thank you very much. But the game in Knoxville as well, he was by far their best 3 shooter in that game. So, Kentucky's got to do a much better job on him. I think having Andrew Carr healthy helps, given that, I think that'll be the matchup this time. Carr was not healthy in the Knoxville game at all. He wasn't nearly as healthy as he is now in the Lexington game either. They were having to play Ansley Almanor on him. Ansley Almanor is not a good defender. So, I do think that helps. But that's the big one for me. It's going to be Lanier. Again, you just can't bank on the fact he's going to go 0 for 7 again, or even 3 for 8. I mean, if he hits 2 more threes, like you said, if Tennessee takes 2 more Kentucky threes off the board and Lanier hits 2 more, they win the game in Knoxville. They don't quite win the game in Lexington, but it's a lot closer. So it's going to come down to little things like that. Tennessee just look, even if Kentucky does go 12 for 24, Kentucky has been much better defensively the last month. They're also no Tennessee or Texas A&M on the defensive end of the floor. Like, you can get in the 70s on them most games, and Tennessee's just got to shoot the ball better. I really do think it does come down to that. I still think Kentucky is going to be able to put up points. They've done it to. I mean, they haven't been. I don't think they've only been held on. Yeah, they've been held under 70 twice all year long, and both those games were in December. So it's hard to bank on that, but they can give up points, and I think Tennessee's got to find some ways to get some looks.
I agree, Aaron. What can the good folks check out from you and the team over at the Cats Paws 247 this week?
Yeah, we'll have a ton of coverage up in Indy. I will be there late tomorrow afternoon, and we'll have the media days covered up there, and plenty of coverage on this. And then we'll get the transfer portal started. It's all hectic on the basketball side, and we'll get back to spring football once time allows. But it's always busy over there now that the off seasons feel a lot shorter with the portal.
Absolutely. that goes for all sports, Aaron. Well, Aaron, thank you for making the time today. I greatly appreciate it. Enjoy the week, and I can't say I hope it goes your way, unfortunately, on Friday, but we shall see.
I hear you, man.
Aaron.
I appreciate you, man.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.